Hi there. So, in today's little chat, I'm going to talk about tiredness. Tiredness versus fatigue versus post exertion malaise. And I'm just going to, sorry, there's a bird landed on my roof. Totally random. Yes, so having a wee chat today about what the differences are between them because I realised that fatigue and tiredness are words that can be used interchangeably. And I want you to understand the difference so that if you're listening to somebody talk about these, using these words, you've got a bit of a better understanding, but also to make sure that they're not misused. So, um, normal tiredness, anybody would feel at the end of their day, or if they've done a particularly strenuous activity, then you're going to get that level of tiredness. However, when you go to bed and go to sleep, your body recharges, and the next day you wake up and you feel fine and you can do it all over again. Whereas fatigue, the difference being that it is similar in terms of how you feel. So you will feel tired, but it's a bit more overwhelming. Or some people might describe it as like, oh, I just feel exhausted. Except when you go to bed, your body doesn't recharge and you wake up the next day and you're still really, really tired. Um, Other things that you could feel with your fatigue is your body feels really weak. Um, you might use descriptions such as you feel really drained or you feel that you've got a complete lack of energy, and everything that you do feels really effortful. So you're not getting the opportunity to recharge, to be able to have that boost of energy to do anything because you're just constantly feeling really drained and really slow, and things feel really heavy and everything feels really effortful. What you would also find, especially from a long COVID point of view, is if you did have brain fog symptoms before, then, and by before I mean like if you had brain fog symptoms at any point in your recovery, um, watch the brain fog video to find out more. But you'll find that the brain fog gets worse. So the more tired you become and the more fatigued that you get, the worse your brain fog symptoms become, or they come back. I find they come back. I really noticed this week with doing a bit more work that I get headaches, and headaches are my trigger for I need to stop, I need to sit down, I need to take off my PPE and have a drink of water and just rest for like 5 minutes and then get up and I'm okay, kind of thing. Um, but like I say, like your brain fog symptoms do get worse, so my forgetfulness gets worse, or my word finding difficulty becomes totally like shocking. And I just say to people now, I'm like, sorry, it's just my brain fog, and people do kind of just accept that. Uh, but like I say, tiredness, you get the ability, your body recharges normally, and it's fine enough with a bit of rest or with um, a sleep. Whereas with your fatigue, if you rest, you're not always necessarily getting the same sort of recharge. The other thing that I wanted to, sorry, actually, to go back. So fatigue can be triggered by anything from a physical point of view, cognitive point of view, emotionally, um, and also from a mental point of view. So you may have walked too far that day. You may have stood in the shower for too long. Maybe you need to think about sitting down in the shower, or maybe you need to think about making the shower less hot, so cooling it down a bit. I've tried cold showers and I'm not a fan. I know that some people love them, and I know it's meant to boost your system so you feel more awake, but nobody likes a cold shower. Um, although you can like just turn it to cold at the end and then jump out. If you've spent too long on the phone, or if you've maybe talked to more people that day, and also if maybe you've gone to the shop, you've decided that you're gonna have a day and you're gonna try and do like grab a couple items at the shop, in which case it's just like sensory overload of being in a shop, having to think about like what do you need. I've certainly started writing down lists because even if I've got like three or four things on the list and I think I'll remember that, I get in and I kind of get a bit overwhelmed by everything. And I find myself having to still refer to this list. And I'm like, it seems ridiculous. Why can I not retain this information? But you just can't. So writing a list for going to the shops is definitely something. But remember that that can totally tire you out as well because you're thinking about a lot of different things. And yeah, it can just be quite overwhelming. So something to be mindful of is that your symptoms don't necessarily happen instantaneously. So you might find that you've maybe gone out for a particularly long walk on the Saturday and you feel actually okay on the Sunday. And it could be the Monday or the Tuesday before you actually start to feel that heavy feeling, that really exhausted feeling, that drained feeling. So your symptoms can take up to 72 hours to develop. So be mindful of that and keep track and like a wee diary so that you know you get a bit of a better idea as to what your trigger has been. I certainly, if I've done a lot on the Saturday, I'll take Sunday as like a total rest day because I know that if I try and do 2 days in a row of like lots of different things, I'm just going to end up knackered come the Monday or Tuesday. So just being really mindful of that. You're having a good day, great, don't push it and make sure that you kind of counteract it with a rest day as well because yeah, this is just so unpredictable that you're better off to take things easy than not. So one of the things I was wanting to say is there's obviously a common belief that activity is really, really good and that you should build on this. But it's not necessarily the case for long COVID. I've tried and tested, trust me, it's not. So activity needs to be adapted to each individual and it needs to be symptom free. So you need to be able to carry out an activity without flaring up your symptoms and bear in mind that they might not flare up for up to 72 hours. So you really need to be careful because if you do push yourself past the point of no return, then you end up with this crippling fatigue, which is commonly known as post-exertion malaise, or you might hear it called as PEM or see it written as PEM, which is literally this, as I said, crippling, disabling fatigue. You can't lift your head to get out of bed. You just want to sleep all the time. You struggle to keep your eyes open. First time that happened to me was at Christmas time because I was trying to do certain things on certain days and I thought I'd paced it out really well. But it was almost like I was trying to build on what I was doing the day before by doing something else and something else and something else. That I got to a point where I'd basically just done all these stepping stones to crash. And it took me 2 weeks to recover. For 2 weeks, I was just a zombie and I couldn't function. So I was lucky that only lasted 2 weeks because for some people it can last months. So you really, really, really need to be careful. And then thinking about when that happens, your baseline totally changes. So I remember having that episode of like 2 weeks of crippling fatigue and then went for a shower and washed my hair and was like, oh my God, I'm like falling asleep again. Like, how is this possible? I thought I'd got past all that, but I hadn't. I had my baseline had changed and then I had to really rethink everything that I was doing. Um, so that was an example of like building on building on building on building. The other example from a post-exertion malaise point of view, from my experience, is pushing yourself past the point of no return in one go. So, for example, I went out for a walk. I'd been doing local walks, and building up, and got to a stage where I was comfortable. I could go out and walk for like an hour and 15 minutes and come back and have no repercussions. So I was like, brilliant. Okay, let's have a change of scenery. Let's, instead of doing like a street walk, let's do like a trail walk. Bit of different scenery, and it'll just be nice to do something different. So about 40 minutes into this trail walk, I started to feel that fatigue, and I was like, oh, like I said to my partner, like, I'm starting to fade. And it was snowing, or it had been snowing. Sorry, it wasn't snowing at the time. It was freezing. I couldn't just stop and rest. There was nowhere to sit down, and I had to push through. I had no choice. I had to get back, and I had to push through. So it was really scary, because firstly, I had that feeling of like fatigue, that heaviness came over me. And then the further I pushed, the more I noticed that my arms had stopped swinging by my side, and my legs felt really heavy, and my steps were getting quite thud, thud, thud. So I was like, oh God, my body's going into like energy conservation mode. Then I realised that my vision became very tunneled. So I wasn't really aware of everything else that's going on around me. I was just very focused on looking at the path and getting back to where I needed to be. After that, my head kind of started drooping, because I was staring at the ground, but also noticed that I couldn't lift it. So I couldn't lift my head to look at where it was going. I could only stare at the ground. My facial muscles became so heavy that I couldn't open my mouth. So I couldn't speak. So despite my partner speaking to me, I was just like, mm-hmm, mm-hmm, or I was just grunting. I wasn't able to physically make words. And then, because my mouth was kind of felt like it was like sealed shut, I had this saliva starting to build up in my mouth. And then I found myself like obviously trying to like naturally swallow it over. And I couldn't, there was something blocking me. It was like I could initiate the swallow, but I couldn't follow through with it. So I had this like mini panic, and I thought, I can't panic right now. I just need to stay calm. But it was really, really scary. And the further I went, the worse I felt. And then I got to a stage where everything just went really weak, and my partner had to like physically carry me for the rest of the walk. And the minute that I got in, I just switched off. I was asleep, and I slept for about three and a half hours. And it was crazy. And that took me about a good 6 7 days to actually get over, to come out of that heavy, fatigued, knackered feeling. And to be honest, when I told that story to my GP, she was so shocked, and she brought me in and was like, let's recheck your bloods, let's give you like a full physical exam. And she was like, no, like this is just fatigue. This is post-exertion malaise. You push yourself way too far. And obviously I didn't have a choice, because there was nowhere I could go, there's nowhere I could rest, there was nothing I could do. So I guess that's just something to be mindful of. Like, if you get, try not to put yourself in those types of situations like I did. But also just make sure that you're listening to your body. And if it sounds like it's needing a rest, you have to schedule those rests in. I still try and do too much, but luckily everyone, given that I'm back at work, I'll do a separate video for that. But yeah, I'm still trying to do too much, and I'm still having to really tailor things back and schedule in rests, which I hate doing, but I have to be able to function. So I guess this video is just again another little clip on things to look out for, especially if those around you look like they're starting to flag. I've really noticed that when I get tired, my voice goes all croaky like this. And like I say, I get the headaches and my eyes look half shut. So they're just little clues to look out for, because you do want to experiment obviously and trial and error and like, oh, can I do this yet? But if you've got somebody else around you, it just really helps, because they can say, no, like, you're pushing yourself too far. You need to stop. You need to take that. You need to sit down and rest. And like I say, I'm very fortunate. My partner's very, very good at telling me when to stop and sit down and just close my eyes, because having that downtime is really, really necessary. Yes, so I hope that this little video has helped in terms of difference between tiredness, fatigue, and post-exertion malaise, which is basically pushing past the point of no return. Because if you end up constantly trying to push past the point of no return, your body's going to take longer and longer and longer to recover. I'm certainly at the moment just doing a little bit of yoga for like 10 minutes in the morning, and I'm just doing local walks. I'm not doing anything that's getting my heart rate up and running, because I know that I need to be careful. So please, please, please do not try and go out for a run. Just listen to your body and do, and just please, please, please listen to your body. Just tune into how you're feeling and rest even when you don't want to. Okay. Hope this helps, and thank you for listening.